While everyone else seems to be hitting milestones, chasing dreams, or showing off their progress, you're wondering if you've missed your moment. Like life handed out roadmaps and somehow skipped you. But what if you're not actually behind it all? What if the pressure you feel is built on false timelines and unfair comparisons? This might just be the perspective shift you didn't know you needed. Life isn't linear, and it certainly isn't a competition. The pressure to keep up often stems from comparing your journey to others, especially in a digital age where everyone's progress is visible and seemingly rapid. But what you're seeing is a carefully curated version of someone else's reality. The highlights, the wins, the polished moments. You don't see the doubts they wrestled with, the failures they hid, or the time it took to get there. When you measure your behind the scenes against someone else's highlight reel, you're always going to feel like you're not enough. The truth is, your journey is valid, even if it looks different. You're allowed to go at your own pace. There is no universal timeline that everyone must follow. Some people find their path early in life. Others discover it through detours, breakdowns, and unexpected turns. Neither is wrong. Growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and internal. Learning how to regulate your emotions, setting boundaries, unlearning toxic patterns. These aren't things you can post about, but they are monumental. They shape who you are becoming. Just because your progress isn't visible doesn't mean it's not happening. And just because you aren't where you thought you'd be by now doesn't mean you failed. Often, we tie our sense of worth to milestones. By this age, I should have this job, this house, this relationship. But those are external markers, not proof of fulfillment. What matters more is who you're becoming in the process. Are you kinder than you were before? More patient? More aware of your values? These are the markers of true growth, and they rarely follow a schedule. When you stop rushing to catch up and instead focus on becoming the best version of yourself, your timeline begins to make more sense. You're not behind, you're becoming, and becoming takes time. Flowers don't bloom all year. Some seasons are for resting, some for growing roots, and others for blossoming. Just because you're not blooming right now doesn't mean you're not preparing for something beautiful. In fact, the deepest growth often happens when no one is watching, when you're quietly rebuilding, realigning, and rediscovering your purpose. That work matters just as much, if not more, than anything the world applauds. It's easy to feel like you're falling behind when you look around and see people achieving things you hope to have by now. But what if you're not late, just being prepared for something that requires a little more time, depth, and maturity? What if your detour is the most important part of your journey? When you shift your focus inward, when you start appreciating how far you've come instead of fixating on how far you have to go, something changes. You realize that your journey isn't late or wrong. It's just yours. And that makes it right. There's a difference between something being delayed and it being denied. Just because your goals haven't materialized yet doesn't mean they never will. Life has a way of testing your patience and commitment by withholding the very things you want most, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Timing is not just about getting what you want. It's about being ready for it when it arrives. You may think you're ready right now, but there are often unseen lessons and internal shifts that need to happen before the external success aligns. What feels like a setback could be setting you up for something far greater than what you originally imagined. It's easy to feel discouraged when progress feels slow or when other people seem to be reaching milestones effortlessly. But speed doesn't equal success. Some of the most powerful transformations take time. It's like planting a seed. Just because you don't see the growth immediately doesn't mean nothing is happening. Underneath the surface, roots are taking hold. Foundations are being built. When the right season comes, what's been growing in the dark will break through the surface, strong, grounded, and ready to last. There are countless stories of people who made it later in life. Authors who didn't publish until their 40s or 50s. Entrepreneurs who failed multiple times before finding their breakthrough. Creatives who spent years developing their craft before anyone noticed. They weren't failures during the waiting years. They were developing depth, resilience, and clarity. You can't shortcut that process. What comes quickly often fades just as fast. But what is built slowly tends to last because it's rooted in something real. Waiting doesn't mean nothing is happening. Sometimes the delay is the development. The skills you're learning in the in-between, the emotional maturity you're gaining, the strength you're building by holding on through uncertainty. All of that is part of your progress. It's not wasted time, it's preparation. In fact, some of the most meaningful accomplishments are born out of long periods of waiting, failing, learning, and trying again. The wait doesn't diminish the value of the outcome. It deepens it. When things take longer than expected, it can feel like life is working against you. But sometimes, that delay is life protecting you from something you're not yet equipped to handle. Or maybe it's making room for something better than what you originally asked for. Just because the door hasn't opened yet doesn't mean it's locked forever. Some doors require patience and persistence to unlock, and sometimes you're being rerouted to a better door altogether. Holding space for your dreams without a fixed timeline takes courage. It's much easier to give up, assume it's not meant for you, or believe the lie that you're not capable. But trust and delay means trusting yourself and your process, even when it's uncomfortable. Every step, even the slow ones, are still steps forward. Milestones are often treated as proof of success, but they don't tell the full story of a person's value or growth. Having a job title, a degree, a relationship, or a certain income may look like achievement from the outside, but they're not accurate reflections of personal worth. It's possible to hit every traditional milestone and still feel empty, lost, or disconnected from who you really are. That's because value isn't found in what you've accomplished. It's found in who you are becoming. The character you're building, the way you treat others, the compassion you show yourself, these are things that define true progress, not the external checkboxes. There are countless people quietly doing the hard work of healing, growing, and evolving with little recognition. They're breaking cycles, learning to communicate better, practicing self-respect, and showing up for themselves despite setbacks. That kind of growth is invisible to the outside world, but it's monumental. You don't get a certificate for learning to forgive someone who hurt you. No one throws a party when you decide to start therapy or when you finally set boundaries with someone toxic. But those moments are powerful. They shape your future. They are evidence that you are moving forward, even if the world doesn't applaud it. When self-worth is tied to milestones, it creates a toxic pressure to perform. You start chasing achievements just to prove you're enough, rather than pursuing things that align with your values. And when those milestones don't arrive on time, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-judgment. But milestones are not the only way to measure success. In fact, they can be limiting if they become the only lens you see yourself through. A more honest measure of progress is how much more aware, resilient, and kind you become compared to who you were yesterday, last month, or a year ago. Choosing personal growth over public validation takes strength. It means making choices that might not look impressive to others, but feel right for you. It means understanding that you are not falling behind just because your life looks different from the blueprint society sets. You're not less worthy because you haven't hit a particular milestone by a certain age. You're evolving in a way that's unique to you. And that uniqueness isn't a flaw, it's a strength. When you start seeing yourself beyond external achievements, you reclaim your power. You no longer need proof from the outside world to believe in your worth. You can honor your growth, even when no one else sees it. You can value your experiences, your healing, and your intentions, because those are the things that build a meaningful life. You are not defined by what you have. You're defined by who you are becoming through every challenge, choice, and change. Behind is a concept often shaped by comparison, not truth. The idea that you're not where you're supposed to be usually comes from looking at others and measuring your life against theirs. But the real question is, according to who? Who decided that success must come by 25, marriage by 30, or financial stability by a certain decade? These expectations are often arbitrary, built by culture, family, or social media, none of which know your unique path, potential, or purpose. When those expectations go unchallenged, they quietly dictate how you feel about yourself. You start believing you're off track when you're simply on a different route. Every person's journey is shaped by countless unseen factors: upbringing, trauma, opportunity, privilege, mental health, timing, even chance. So comparing timelines ignores everything that makes you who you are. Someone else's fast progress doesn't mean you're slow. It just means you're on two completely different paths. But instead of accepting that difference, it's easy to internalize a false sense of failure. That voice in your head whispers, You should be further along, but it never explains why or who you're racing against. The truth is, there is no race. There's only your life unfolding at its own pace. Expectations can become a prison if they're not yours. Maybe you're chasing goals you didn't even choose, following a script someone else handed you. The pressure to meet these external standards can cause anxiety, burnout, and low self-esteem. And when you don't measure up, you blame yourself, not the unrealistic timeline. But your life isn't wrong just because it doesn't match someone else's. What if the path you're on is actually right for you, even if it looks different from others? There's a kind of peace that comes from releasing the idea of where you should be. When you stop measuring your worth based on age-based expectations or career checklists, you make space to define success for yourself. Maybe success for you is about healing from something you never asked for. Maybe it's about rediscovering joy after a long period of survival. Maybe it's learning to like yourself again. These things don't come with trophies, but they're powerful milestones in their own right. Letting go of comparison allows you to hear your own voice again. It allows you to choose your direction without guilt or shame. You don't have to meet anyone else's timeline to be valid. You don't have to rush into a version of success that doesn't even feel right. Your timing isn't broken, it's just yours. And yours is the only one that needs to make sense. Life doesn't reward those who rush. It honors those who stay honest with themselves. The moment you stop trying to catch up with a version of life that was never yours to begin with is the moment you begin to walk in alignment with your truth. Not every phase of life is meant to be productive in the way society defines it. There are seasons where the external progress pauses, but that doesn't mean you're stuck or falling behind. What looks like stillness on the surface is often a season of deep internal construction. The foundation you're building in the quiet moments, the mental shifts, emotional resilience, patience, self-awareness are all necessary for the next chapter. Just because something isn't visible doesn't mean it's not valuable. You're not just treading water. You're learning to swim in deeper currents. This is the kind of preparation that makes future growth sustainable rather than superficial. It's easy to overlook the significance of these quieter phases because they don't come with validation. There are no congratulatory posts or applause when you're simply learning how to cope better. Show up for yourself or make small, consistent choices that are slowly rebuilding your life. But this is the groundwork. It's the part of your story where you're collecting the tools you'll need for what's ahead. The mindset you're developing now, the habits you're practicing, and the endurance you're building. These will be the very things that hold you up when opportunities arrive. Progress doesn't always mean upward motion. Sometimes it's lateral. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it looks like healing old wounds before you can take your next step. That healing work may not look like progress to others, but it's absolutely essential. You're strengthening your capacity to handle more, to lead yourself with clarity, and to build something that lasts. Without that inner work, the outer success would collapse under pressure. What feels like delay could actually be a moment of alignment, a chance to step into the next version of yourself fully equipped, not scrambling to catch up. The world celebrates outcomes but rarely sees the preparation. It doesn't notice the nights you stayed committed, the decisions you made to protect your peace, the people you walked away from in order to grow. But those choices matter. They shape you. They prove that you are not falling behind. You are becoming. And becoming isn't about rushing toward results. It's about growing into someone who can hold them well when they come. Sometimes the journey takes longer because the version of success you're headed toward requires a deeper you. Someone who's emotionally grounded, mentally sharp, and spiritually strong. Those qualities aren't built overnight. They're forged in seasons that feel like waiting, wondering, and working in silence. This is not wasted time. This is you being shaped, not sidelined. The discomfort, the patience, the effort, it's all part of the foundation. You are being prepared, not punished. What's being built in you now will one day be the reason you don't just reach your goal, but thrive when you get there. Feeling behind in life is a deeply human experience, but it doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're still becoming. Your journey isn't late, wrong, or broken. It's just unfolding in its own time. The growth you're going through, even if invisible right now, is shaping you for what's ahead. Release the pressure to meet someone else's timeline. Trust your process. You are not behind. You are building something meaningful, step by step. Keep going.